Hopefulness 2.0, May 11th. I wanted to start it just a little bit later so I could be like, well, it's technically May 12th, but it's not. It'll be May 12th in a couple minutes. And the clock said 12:04, but again, this clock is like 9 minutes fast, something like that. So, I have to be at work in 23 hours. So I'm doing my 2 overnight training shifts starting tonight, which means I need to go to bed at a later time than usual. Normally I'd be getting ready for bed right about now, or at the very least preparing to get ready for bed. But right now I need to be awake. When I left this morning, took my Adderall. I also got the right amount of meds this time around. It's full up for antidepressants because we're doubling up. So I took the Adderall, and then when I was at work, I want to say close to about 2 hours into the shift, maybe a little earlier than that. One of the guys, he had to go pick up a car, so he had to have somebody drive him there so that they can then both come back and pick up the car. And on his way back, he stopped off at Starbucks and he called up and he's like, "Hey, you guys want something?" And I was like, "Yeah, I might as well." I mean, I'm not really trying to be spending money towards Starbucks or anything, but it was like, and I mean, I could have got a coffee on site. I just didn't think about it. But so I'm gonna try to think about it because you've got like Keurigs, and I mean, Keurigs, it's still not the best idea because with plastic waste and all that shit. So I'm trying to minimize all of that. It's just that sometimes I forget about it. There's a lot to think about at times in life. Nobody's perfect, but progress takes effort. And, so I'm trying to make those efforts when I can remember to. But in so doing, I got a drink. Came back about a half hour later, if that, maybe even less. And then throughout the day, I drank the drink. It was a cold brew because I don't like iced coffees. It hurts my teeth sometimes. Just like you get it just wrong and it hits your tooth or something, and it's annoying, and then it waters it down so it doesn't taste that good. I'd rather have cold coffee than watered down cold coffee. Sure, it's more expensive. It was like $6. Not ideal, but it's whatever. And I could at some point I could get like a thermos or something, so I could do multiple shots, whatever. Make my own coffee. I don't know. Everything supposedly has been put into place for me to get paid, and apparently getting paid will happen on Sunday. I think I mentioned that before. But I was actually considering doing pizza again. So I think what I'll do is let that heat up, and then I'll let it cool back down a little bit. Because I'm gonna kind of like cure. Because like the method on here isn't exactly, it's not an exact science or anything like that, but I mean, it's seasoning a cast iron pan. And that in itself is something that takes a bit of practice to get done right. because you're essentially making a food grade plastic seal around the metal so that it can be non-stick, and try to use a neutral oil so you don't worry about additional flavors. It's fascinating, but it can be a bit intimidating too. Need some water. One thing I think I need to do, especially since I'm running out of chicken, I have like one piece of chicken thigh left. I need to cook up the remainder of my chicken thigh. For one. Two, I need to cook up my bacon so that I have some bacon to incorporate stuff like onto pizza. And actually, now I think about it, take this piece of chicken and cut it up. And I'll use it as a topping for the pizza. I think I might have to heat it up just a little bit so that it can be a little bit more balanced temperature-wise with regards to that. And while I'm in here, why not? I think I'm just gonna split this dough in half, and then whatever half will fit into another container. I can put that in the fridge, and then I can try to clean this bad boy out at some point. So you should fit, no problem. Should be good enough size. Let's get my hands wet. Makes life easier. At least with regards to working with dough, especially really wet dough. Man, this is cold. It doesn't help when the last couple of days have been pretty chilly too in the area. Thus making cold stuff in the house a little bit less bearable. But it's whatever. Shit, I forgot to take the lid off. Crap. Yeah, water's cold. Everything's cold. It's supposed to be like 90 something on Saturday too, so whatever cold front we're dealing with right now is about to be ending soon, so. Take the lid off. What I could do also, why not? Could weigh it. Split in half, get a rough estimate. 478. Good enough. It'll be nice and thin. Come on. So I'll just stick this in the fridge. That'll save some space. Start chopping these up. Let this sit in here. I think I'll go ahead and turn off the heat now because it's starting to smoke. clean up any excess oil that was sort of cool. Fortunately, I have a fan on in the room, but so that's good. I mean, it's going to be a while for all of this. I mean, it's not going to be happening, in the next hour or something. What I can do, especially because this dough is really cold, I'll just go ahead and drape it over there. That way, oops. Get it out of the way. Alrighty. It would suck to have the fire alarm go off at midnight. In fact, what I'll do is just gonna stick it in the oven. Cool off that way. Put the plate on, or put the pan on there, just do that thing. Keep it from being exposed, blah blah blah. I don't even know how much time is left on this phone right now. It should have been like, I want to say somewhere around like 60 or 70%. I think it was yesterday that I did a video and then cut off. I don't know, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter, man. These videos aren't really all that interesting, I'm sure. Nobody watches them, really. I'm just documenting. Who knows? Whenever I die, someone will go back to it and be like, oh, okay. So that's what's going on. Or was. Oh. I was listening to Dear Hank and John, or as John likes to call it, Dear John and Hank, which I think is great. He does that every time. It's a fun little, just he's renaming it every time, and it's great. He's put himself in front, even though it's always after the fact. It's just fun. I was listening to them on my way to work and on my way back, and at one point, I think it was actually right when I got to work and I turned it off so I could, be ready to be productive and all that. It was a live show that I believe they did in Alabama? No. Maybe it was Atlanta? I can't remember. It was one of the two. A with an L with an A at the end, whatever. But somebody had mentioned writing and like what are some tricks when it comes to writing, and then kind of giving up on it and stuff. And I've never really gotten far with any writing. I never considered myself a writer. I've tried to be, and I would say that based on my experiences, and this is based on my experiences, nobody else's. This isn't a general rule of thumb of any kind, but it seems like the best way to be a writer is to have a lot of free time. But also, in that free time, kind of have a lot of disconnect. That's not to say that's necessarily true. It just seems like it. From my own experiences, nobody else's, that I'm aware of. And I mean, for all I know, the writing bug is gone from me. Happens all the time. It comes back as well, which is a little frustrating, to be honest. And it comes and goes, and sometimes it comes and then it's like, it's there for like maybe 4 hours and then disappears. It's like, oh man, really? Come on. That's life. Life is a neurotypical. Life is ADD. Now, I was also thinking that maybe I could nap for like a half hour or an hour. I can't. If I was gonna nap, I can't be sleeping too long. And maybe tomorrow as well. I think before I do anything with regards to work and stuff, though, I've got to at least go to the grocery store, get a couple things. There was something else that I wanted to get. Oh, it was vinegar. I have to remember that because the phone's in use. But here, I'll just, like, stick it right here. Maybe. Now, have this sit out. We'll get covered. Maybe I won't even have to heat it up. Maybe it'll just be warm from room temp. I don't know. We'll see. But, because then I can cut it up, tinier pieces and whatever. But, yeah, I need to get some necessities from the store. Should heat up that bacon. At some point, yeah, just a handful of it, really. A good chunk of it. But, yeah, so I said, once this whole job thing stabilizes, it's reasonably stable, but, like, I still don't have, like, certain levels of access or anything. And, once that happens, or at the very least, once I get into that agreement and all that, once I get the credentials and stuff, that'll be obviously more solidified. But I do want to talk to my boss and be like, I'm trying to be an advocate for workers, just in general. And some of the stories that I've heard in the last few days is that, somebody gets off at a certain time and they have an 8-hour turnaround. I think technically that should be illegal. Like, at the bare minimum, it should be 12, and only if the person wants to do it. Like, if they make the first step. They should not be requested. Or, let's, okay. One might say, what happens if nobody's requesting it? And, why would somebody want to request that? Let's change it up slightly. So let's say worker A, we'll call Alan, and worker B, we'll call Bernice. Alan, for all intents and purposes, hates the idea of quick turnovers. Constantly says some shit about it, hates it. Doesn't even like coming in every day at the same time. Bernice, on the other hand, she's okay with it as long as she gets some notice. And then we'll go see Clementine has a shift that they need off. Alright. Now, the way that where I'm working, there's only 3 total shifts. There's the 7 to 3, there's 3 to 11, there's the 11 to 7. So in this situation, the 12-hour thing doesn't so much count, but let's say at least 12, if not 24-hour notice to, so like 12 hours, okay. So it works with 12 hours before the shift, the person, there has to be at least 12 hours before the shift, before that person is willing to actually take up on that role. So let's say Clementine has all overnights, right? And then let's say that Bernice, generally speaking, always has the morning shift. And then let's say that Alan always has the midday shift. Of course, it's not going to count for all of them, but it doesn't matter all of them. So, Alan ain't taking it. Even on his days off, he's not doing it. Now, it's possible, let's say, Clementine has an overnight shift on Saturday, and Alan has his last shift is on Thursday. So he'd have all of Friday, and then he would have the vast majority of Saturday to then do the overnight shift if he felt like it. And let's say nobody's requested it, simply that there's an app that all the workers are involved in, and when somebody wants to change shifts or something, or if they want to give up a shift, anybody who happens to be using the app that's associated with that employer, they get a notification. Alan gets the notification automatically, but for whatever reason, Bernice doesn't notice it until it's like noon the day of. You could say that the application won't even let you make that shift change if you're 12 hours ahead. So like, you're not even allowed to take that shift within 12 hours of when the shift is available. So Bernice checks at like 12:25 p.m. same day. She can't take it. Anybody else who checks it at that time and hasn't grabbed it at that point isn't allowed to. The only way it would happen is if there's, let's say, a managerial override or something like that. I know I've probably already gone beyond, and again, nobody fucking watches these. What I'm getting at, though, is that there should never be what is called the clopen. The close and then the open. And from my understanding, a lot of this has to do with the 24-hour, the day ending at midnight. And as such, you can basically work 2 shifts that are not back to back in a 24-hour period that does not cause overtime. This is how employers are able to effectively get overtime hours out of you without paying overtime hours. I don't like that. Now, this is a nonprofit. They function slightly differently, but at the same time, they have a lot of the same rules that they have to follow when it comes to legalities. And I know that this is just wishful thinking, but I think that if you have to work more than 8 hours in any 24-hour period, you should be getting overtime pay. And if there is a period of time, and this is why I just don't think it should be legal in the first place, if there is a period of time in which you are effectively waiting between those shifts, and this is a thing, like if you had to, let's say you work 4 hours and then you have another shift that's like 3 hours later, you can't do anything. You're basically waiting to go to work. You should be paid for those hours. Like, there's a lot of issue I have overall with workers' rights in America. Nobody should ever work more than 8 hours in any 24-hour period and not get paid overtime. Period. And clopens shouldn't be a thing. I mean, like, Starbucks closes often at like 9 or 10, and then they open at like 4. And some places, some Starbucks will fucking make them work. And it's stupid. I'd be like, nah, ain't happening. And I mean, like, I would say that my boss is pretty reasonable. At least based on conversations I've had with him. Straight shooter, but he's not crass or anything like that. He's not gruff or tactless. I think I'd be able to have a decent conversation with him about it. Maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. But if I put it in a situation where, or if at least I explain it in a way that is basically saying, look, if I'm here, there's really no reason to be making people do these 8-hour turnarounds. There's no reason. You have the people. And, I mean, obviously not putting it that way, but there isn't a reason. I don't think there's ever a good reason for it. And not only do I not want to be in that situation, I don't want others to be in that situation either. Call it because I don't want to. Because I don't want to be subjected to it or whatever, but it doesn't matter to me. What matters is that it's not a policy, it's not a normal practice. I don't think the average person should be subjected to that ever. And this is one of the reasons why unionizing is a thing. This is why you talk with your fellow coworkers about pay. And I'm not going to shut up about it anymore either. Like, I used to be kind of, but I'm going to talk about it. I even had a conversation a little bit earlier. And yeah, I was the only one really talking about it. I wouldn't, because I read the room, I could tell that it was a conversation topic that is uncomfortable. Because that's the society we've created. That's the social atmosphere that we have formed over fucking decades of propaganda and just control and power structures. It's like everybody's wages, salaries, etc. should be posted somewhere in public view for employees, at least. I think that should be the case. Not ideal, even if it's for the position. Because, like, what if the position is 16 an hour? Well, I'm getting if I'm making 16, somebody else is making 17, well, honestly, I'd like to know that they're making that kind of money too. Because, like, if you're there for the same amount of time as somebody else, or if you're there for like 4 or 5, 6 years and you're still making the same amount of money as somebody who just got hired on, it's good to know that stuff. That's why I've mentioned it when I'm in conversations. And I've made it to where it's less in your face, but I still bring it up because it needs to be brought up. People need to bring this stuff up. They need to have regular conversation with people. It needs to be brought up. It needs to be said so in a casual manner that doesn't sound like they're trying to thrust, things on people's face. Because if you're having a conversation and somebody's like, wait, what? Then you can have the real talk. And as they say, divided we beg, united we bargain. right now we're going through some very potentially traumatic and life-changing social and political turmoil. Oh, also, if you talk about unionization and other people start unionizing, even if you're not in a union, it still benefits you. Because then you have it in your head that you might go work for some place that has unions so that you get treated better than you currently are. So that's a thing too. So even if you're not in a union, it's good for more unions to form. It's good for more workers to have workers' rights, to be treated better, have better hours, to get paid better, especially when everything is so tumultuous. We've got inflation, we've got gas prices that are just climbing. $15 an hour is nothing. $25 is where our minimum wage should be nationally. So, to those who might be watching, which is unlikely, unionize, if at all possible. Have fun.